Another week, another answer for the Project 1Q9A, and this time the question is, and again I'm going to read it to make sure that I get it right. A lot of emphasis is put on having important website information above the fold. Do you think this really matters? Wow, as soon as you get onto the subject of the fold, things get pretty interesting. Let me give you my take on things. There is a group of people that say the fold doesn't exist. And to be honest, I can see where they're coming from, and I would have been one of them for a very long time. You see, the fold comes from the newspaper industry. It's the point where the newspaper is folded in half and put on the newsstand. So what appears above the fold is what is viewable as somebody is walking past the newsstand. Therefore, what is above the fold is massively important. It's what grabs attention and gets someone to pick up the newspaper and hopefully buy it. Now, that was then applied to the web, and a group of people rightly said, well, hang on a minute, that doesn't work as an analogy because there is no fixed point where the user sees stuff and then doesn't see stuff. People were saying that the point where you start scrolling, everything above that is above the fold. But the thing is, this group would argue, that point moves. Sometimes content is above the fold and sometimes it's not, because it depends on screen size, the type of browser you've got, how wide and big your window is, etc., etc. So they would argue that therefore there is no fold, you don't know where the fold is, so why are we talking about this fold? Well, that is strictly true. There is no specific point where people have to start scrolling, and so there is no way of designing a website so some content is guaranteed to be above the fold and some content is guaranteed to be below it. The thing is, the analogy does work to some extent. It is true, as with newspapers, that stuff put up high on a website that would be theoretically above the fold if there was such a fixed point is going to be noticed by users first, should therefore be the content that grabs the user's attention and draws them in. So talking about the fold is really a little bit of a red herring. What we should be talking about instead is the importance to take important content that grabs your attention and draws the user in, and put that near the top of the page. Should that always be the most important information? Not necessarily. What it should be is information that grabs the user's attention, draws them into the site and encourages them to scroll and to get engaged with the site. However, in some situations you need to accept that's particularly difficult, so what you want to do instead is take your key messages and place them high on the page in order to grab users' attention. Where things begin to go wrong is where you get into the mentality that, well, users might not scroll, and so let's cram everything in above the mythical line that is the fold. Let's cram everything into the top part of the page. And actually, ultimately, that's counterproductive, because rather than grabbing the user and drawing them in, you're going to scare them off. You've got a busy site that's overwhelming the user. So what you need to do instead is put the key messages high on the page and allow the page to be as long as it needs to be in order to communicate everything else. So don't think about the fold, but think about a visual hierarchy with the most important and most engaging content put high on the page, and as you scroll down, content becomes less and less important. It is important to emphasize that users do scroll, and so there is no need to shove everything at the top of the page. However, you need to give them a reason to scroll, and that's the key.